Military Broadcast Radio, the station that's giving veterans a voice.
Find us on the web at mbradio.us.
Opinions expressed in this program are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of any entities they represent.
Find us on the web at mbradio.us.
All right, good evening. Welcome to the Dozier Show on KCAA Radio, 106.5 FM, 1050 AM. Also streaming from the KCAA Radio.com website and mbradio.us. We got to bless the show before we get started. Let's go. When I was in my mother's womb, I had a calling on my life to do something in the glory of God and marry it like a wife. Commit myself to his word and never be led astray. And when it's all over, when he comes, I'll be glad to see that day in the morning time. Uh-oh. Ha. Welcome to the Dozier Show on KCAA Radio 106.5 FM, 1050 AM. Also stream from the KCAA Radio.com website, the station that leaves no listener behind, and Military Broadcast Radio Network. That's right, the Military Broadcast Radio Network on all their platforms, plus MBR on Roku TV. Again, thank you for listening tonight. Just going to have some conversations with you just about life, what I spoke at about church today. Of course, some ABA talks. I'm looking to see if I get Sports Log on here to do some NBC Sports real quick. But yeah, again, if you want to be a guest at Farrion Dozier Show or Farrion D Show or at Farrion Dozier on all platforms. And you can be a guest if you're a military veteran. Actually, it doesn't matter. You could just be somebody that wants to share your story, talk about your life experience. We got a segment for all of that. So again, thanks for listening in, and let's get started with this.
Some of us still carry the burden of battle. It threatens to drown us in our everyday lives. In battle, we had our weapons and combat gear to keep us safe, to keep us confident. But when we returned home, we were not armed with weapons and gear to cope with our own minds. I was lucky to find my combat gear, my mental weapon, and it's called Calmago. Calmago is a drug-free device that allows you to achieve calm in less than 3 minutes in moments of anxiety, stress, anger, panic, or insomnia, not with medication, but rather by activating the parasympathetic nervous system through breathing regulation and multisensory stimulation. A recent study has shown that Calmago decreases PTSD and anxiety levels in veterans, helping those who are suffering and having a long-lasting effect. Visit Calmago.com to learn how you can get Calmago through the VA or with a special veterans discount code.
Introducing LT Defense Tactical Gear, your ultimate solution for top-notch protection and performance in the field. Our armor bundles provide unmatched safety and comfort, while our battle belts and holsters ensure quick and easy access to your gear. Stay prepared for any situation with our high-quality medical supplies, designed to keep you ready for action at all times. Looking to enhance your skills? Our firearms training programs will take your proficiency to the next level. Trust LT Defense for all your tactical gear needs and gear up for success on the battlefield.
Zetovia salve, made from natural and organic ingredients, good for inflammation, poor circulation, hemorrhoids, yeast infection, lip sores, dry coughs, eye pain, minor cuts and bruises, and ready to purchase at botanicaherbalco.com. 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 All right, welcome back to the Dozier Show on KCA Radio, 106.5 FM, 1050 AM. Also stream from the KCARadio.com website and Military Broadcast Radio Network. So make sure you go get those apps. KCA Radio has an app. Also, MBR has an app. so you can catch us on your device wherever. And make sure you go check out the other shows on both platforms. All right, because on this MBR platform, I have veterans of my brothers in arms, sisters in arms that are doing shows. So you want to go and listen to some of those conversations. They're very, very, very informal. If you want to get to know and learn more about what it is or what it is to be a veteran, right? Because sometimes we label one another, and so that human connection gets disconnected. And so if you label me as a veteran, then you might be missing out on some unique qualities that I have, right? Because we're human beings first. All right, so make sure you do that. Also on the KCA radio platform, it's 100 plus 50 shows over there. Check those out as well. So today, I had an opportunity to speak at church, and the lesson, you know, it was about the end times, right? And how the end times, you know, if you really look in the future of what those end times, what the Bible talks about in Revelations, it could be scary. It could be very scary for people, because I believe that for us as human beings, ultimately, the fear of death, right? Not as much so for us as veterans, because we serve this country, and I realized that even when I joined the military at 19, I didn't even consider dying, right? Or one thing that I shared with them this morning at church was I never thought about what would happen if I went to war and got captured. I never thought about being a prisoner of war and being punished, right? And so I thought about that in my military experience. And then I thought about Revelations and the chapters we were studying. And I realized if I could die for this country and I say I follow Christ, then am I not willing to die for Christ, to die for what I believe? Because they say that there's going to be persecution against Christians. There's a lot of things that's going to happen in these end times, not just the earthquakes and the fires and things like that. And so I shared from a perspective or a perception of, if I'm living for my salvation in Christ and God, and I'm worried about the future and that last day or the end of time, should I really be nervous? Should I really be scared? Should I really be anxious? That's a no. But what gets in the way of that? What actually gets in the way of that conversation about the fear of death and the fear of dying if I'm believing that I have eternal life? And so I spoke from not the activities of what's going to happen in those end times, but the experience of what's going to happen. But the experience of from my experience. See, if I'm living to the future of uncertainty and the fear of death, then I'm going to be anxious today. And we don't know when that last day is going to happen. We have no idea. But it also depends on my experience of that. And so in this lesson this week on Bible study, I was able to find some peace. Talking to my mom, talking to Jody, I really was able to find a level of peace. And I'm no longer afraid to die or the end times, right? Because what I was pointing to that might be in the way is a level of self-righteousness and soul pride. And so that pride, that lives inside your soul, your mind, will, and emotions, right? And as human beings, we're created, the mind wants to survive life. It wants to survive. It needs to survive life. It wants to survive. But your spirit wants to live and be free. And that's a battle. And so the definition of spiritual pride, it arises when a person becomes prideful about their religious knowledge, spiritual practices, or perceived closeness to God. It often involves using spirituality to elevate oneself above others or feeling superior due to one's perceived spiritual achievements. Now, if you don't think that happens in the church, it does. Sometimes titles get in the way. Sometimes, positions, or because I'm closer to God than you are, then I'm smarter than you, or I have more knowledge than you. Whatever that is. That can cause you to judge people. That could cause you to have an opinion about somebody. And so that's not what we're supposed to be doing to one another. Yes, there are things in life that are right and wrong. But when you have right and wrong up against another human being, then that's where the conversation of judgment or the experience of no love being present, because I'm right and you're wrong. You invalidate that other person. So if you're concerned about your salvation and you're worrying and you have opinions about people, that could be an issue. But it also could be an issue because you have opinions about yourself. What are you saying to yourself when your mouth is closed? What does yourself say to you? I'm not good enough. I'm not worth it. I'm not smart enough. I'm not this. I'm not that. I don't belong. There's something wrong with me. Those are things that we suffer in silence. But yet we're supposed to go to the Holy Spirit for guidance. We're supposed to go to Jesus Christ for his character and his ways and his works. Ultimately, we're supposed to believe in God that he's in control of everything. So there's no self-righteousness in there. There's no opinions in there. And that could be enough to take you off track, to lose focus. The definition of soul pride is rooted in emotions, will, and intellect. It centers on one's personal identity, abilities, and accomplishments outside of spiritual matters. It often involves self-reliance, personal ambition, and the desire to control one's life apart from God. And that's something that I really had to do some work around, because I kept singing that Mary J. Blige song, "It's my life, my life, my life," trying to control everything, trying to control outcomes. Now, if I'm going to control these outcomes, or I'm going to allow what God plan has for me. So you see the battle? I'm trying to control my life and outcomes, but yet I think I trust God. So that also can create a level of stress. Right? So, they talk about you got to have knowledge and understanding and wisdom in the spiritual journey. But what I discovered at church is you got to have knowledge. Yes. You got to have understanding. You got to have comprehension. You have to have revelation. That revelation is for yourself first. See, a lot of times people think that the scriptures and the word is for other people. But you have to get that word for yourself first. So sometimes those words, those scriptures, those passages are for you first, so that you can learn about your character and who you are and who you're being. And then an opportunity may come to share your testimony once you get some revelation from that work and you apply it to your life. And you hear somebody that's stuck in a part of life that you can relate to, then you can share your experience if they're interested. So it's not just about knowledge and understanding and wisdom. You got to have comprehension. You got to have revelation. And so one of the things I talked about this morning was, after all that, after you give up your opinion about yourself, right? After you give your opinion about other people, then what? Well, there was a scripture that talks about the Beatitudes. And the Beatitudes, actually the last Beatitude, number 8, says, "Blessed are those who are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven." And Jesus is teaching that those who are persecuted for doing what is right, living according to God's ways, are blessed and will receive their kingdom in heaven as their reward. So there's a lot of religious conversations. There's a lot going on in the world, but I'm not speaking from religion. I'm speaking from relationship. And this conversation is important if you are concerned about your eternal life. Some people aren't even worried about their eternal life. Some people aren't even concerned to think about their eternal life. Some people just want to figure out how I can survive today. Right now, man, I'm dealing with A, B, C, and D. But one day, in those end times, and we can see it already. We see the spiritual wars. We see the wars in other countries. We hear the earthquakes, the fires. There's a lot of things going on in life. And a lot of people are afraid of the end times. I'm no longer afraid. I live in an area where there's earthquakes. I live on the fault line. I live on the fault line that runs from San Diego to San Francisco. And every time I hear this house shake or that rumble coming, I speak to that earthquake. Not today. And then I feel like that's where I want to move. But I realized today from my own revelation that even if there's an earthquake in this area, it doesn't mean that my house will be destroyed. Because if I believe in God, he's going to protect my house. But also, if my house does get destroyed in an earthquake, I'm still okay because it's just material things. So I'm not worried about the stuff. I'm not worried about if my house crumbles in an earthquake because I believe in God. And in the midst of all of it, he's going to be there regardless. And that's peace. Because happiness is connected to circumstances. So the circumstances about an earthquake and all that, for sure, you're worried, you got concerns, but that peace in Christ, that peace in God is joy. So I'm at peace with that. If you want to learn more about that conversation, you can go to, it's Mark 13, 14 through 27. And it was about Jesus pointing to Daniel and what Daniel was going through. And what I got from that passage is that passage highlights that in times of great tribulation, in the second coming of Christ, human strength and self-reliance will fail, whether it's spiritual pride, trusting in one's own righteousness, or soul pride, relying on one's personal abilities. Both forms of pride are inadequate. Only God's power can bring salvation and victory, calling for humility and complete dependence on him. So you can either go to see what the world has to say or what the word has to say. And that was my lesson. Again, this is the Farrion Dozier Show on KCA Radio 106.5 FM, 1050 AM, and Military Broadcast Radio Network. Just wanted to share that. That was my lesson for today, titled Self-Righteous and Self-Pride. I got a lot of freedom. Knowledge disappears fear, let me tell you. It does. And this is not religious. This is the relationship with Christ. All right. You want more information at farriond.com. That's right. That's at farriond.com. You can see what I'm up to and all the other conversations. All right. We're going to play another public service announcement and then we'll come back. And I got Sports Log here to cover some highlights and then we'll see where we go from there. How about that? Hey, what's up, man? How you doing?
I'm blessed, my brother. How you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Hey, did you see the game last night?
Oh, that was a good game.
But did you see the shot?
I lost money from that shot.
Oh,
too,
man,
bro.
that shot was cold,
I
man.
hated it, but it was good.
Damn.
What's in those jeans?
You really want to know?
I do.
Exhaustion, muscle spasms, asthmatic issues, unexpected sickle cell trait crises.
Damn, are you serious? When I was young, I found out I had sickle cell trait. My mom's told me, but I ain't have no knowledge of it. But when I got older, I had a child, and the doctor told me my daughter has sickle cell trait. You know the facts that both parents have sickle cell trait? There's a 50% chance the child may have the trait, and 25% chance the child may have the disease.
Hey, that's what's the count. Do you know that 2.5 million people in the United States have sickle cell trait? 300 million people globally? I didn't find out I had sickle cell trait until I was in the Army, 10 years. Next thing you know, I had a sickle cell trait exertion site.
Sickle cell? I thought that was a black gene or something.
Nah, man, the Latin community is number 2. 1 out of 36,000 babies are being born with sickle cell disease. You could be Caucasian, Mediterranean, European. You gotta know your bloodline, man. There is an inherited gene in our community that has been forgotten. The name is sickle cell trait. WDCONSCT, also known as What's the Count, is out to bring awareness, education, and prevention to people all over the globe. Want more information? Call us now at 323-215-5384 or visit www.wdconsct.org. All right, welcome back to the Dozier Show on KCA Radio 106.5 FM and 1050 AM. All right, I want to talk about my Ventura County orcas. Let me see if I can pull this off. I was testing it earlier today to make sure it worked. Go to my page here and share. My name is Sunny and your name is Share. All right, so we are at the Dozier Show page. And I'm going to search and I'm going to go to the orcas. So you should be able to see. This is the Ventura Orcas right here. This is my ABA basketball team. All right. No, I'm not following myself. What's cool is I had my official tryouts last weekend. And this is a quick clip of what was going on.
If your shot's not going. That's overseas.
So that was last week. That was last week. That was our tryouts, our first official tryouts for the Ventura County Orcas. I had a great time. Got some good players. Got a great coach. Definitely going to focus on fundamental basketball. Definitely going to focus on defense. They can already shoot, right? So the coach is going to make sure that we focus on some defense for this season. All right. The ABA can be a fast-paced game. And, we're still looking for a center. I need a power forward and one more center, maybe two more centers. But we got 15, 14 guys, ready to go. And if you want more information about that, orcasaba.com. That's the website for the Ventura County Orcas. What I want to say is the orcas are also an endangered species. Yes, the orcas are an endangered species. And so part of our campaign, since that is our mascot, is to address some of these issues around the orcas. We are going to take care of our mascot in our community and get our community involved. So I put together this reel that talks about how we are going to do our first piece of this awareness for the orcas. I believe there's about 90 or 92 on this side of the country, on the West Coast. 90 or 92. And what was surprisingly that in my research is that we are actually eating their food. One of their main sources of food is salmon and cod. So does it make sense that they're endangered? Yes, they are killer whales, and they do eat whales as well, and dolphins and some other animals. But one of their main sources of food is salmon. And we're eating a lot of salmon these days. Tell the truth. So could that be the reason? You know, the Bible talks about, you know, when Adam, he's created Adam. Adam was to name the animals and take care of this world. And as people, we are too supposed to do our part and take care of these animals. So we are launching our campaign for the orcas, since it is our mascot, and we've got some basketball players, some NBA, NFL players, and everything like that to support us in these conversations. So I'm going to play you the campaign that I started for the awareness of the orcas.
County orcas, guess what? Our mascot, the orcas are endangered species. That's right, they are an endangered species. So join us in our 2024-2025 campaign to bring awareness to the endangered species of the orcas. It's real simple. Watch the video, take a free throw shot, tag us at OrcasABA on Instagram, and start with us bringing awareness this season to the orcas. Our mascot is endangered. We look for your support. Visit OrcasABA.com for more information and tag us at OrcasABA.
That is right. That is the orcas. They are an endangered species. The sharks are endangered. There's some tigers. There's a lot of animals that we are going to be partnering with other professional teams and ABA teams and college mascots, high school, and elementary school mascots. So that is a campaign that we're bringing to the community that we're going to start up around. Oh, Sports Dog said the Dolphins too. Yeah, so there are some mascots that are endangered, and so we plan on taking care of our part by supporting and looking after those orcas. What else we got? I think that's enough for now for that. You can go to the website at OrcasABA and find out what we're up to. Definitely exciting. Our first game is going to be November 2nd and 3rd. We're in the jump off tournament. Where's the jump off at? Oh, this is a jump off tournament right here. How about we play the jump off?
California, get ready for some exciting, high-flying, West Region jump-off is set to begin November 2nd and 3rd, featuring the Nova Star with a new look and a new roster after defeating #1 Chula Vista last season. They will also be jumping off. We have the Guy Levy legends out of San Diego who will be jumping off. The San Jose Wolfpack will also come down from the north and jump off. The ABA is back with live action. The newly added Antelope Valley Bulls will jump off. Traveling from Central California's Red Division, the Fresno Flames will jump off. The Inland Empire Hounds will make their return to the ABA and jump off. Newly added Ventura County Orcas will jump off. This showcase is set to be the most exciting basketball in 20 years. Get your tickets online today and don't miss the action.
That is the jump off right there. So again, just make sure you check us out. The Ventura County Orcas at OrcasABA.com. That's what we about. That is, even with that, creating this basketball team and launching this basketball team, I really, it took all of the patience and the faith and the patience that I had to not pull out of this season because of just what it takes to create this team from zero. Like we're ground zero. I had nothing but the territory. And now we got a team. We have a place to play. Got some uniforms. Everything's coming together. But it took patience, and I had to remind myself that I trust in God. Right? I pay attention to my behavior. I repent. I ask people for forgiveness if I wrong them. I make sure that my life is in alignment because I knew that one phone call could change everything. And it did. Right? So that's that faith. You gotta believe, but you gotta have faith. And I'm glad I did not pull out of this season. So we're going for it. We're going for it. So again, thanks for listening in. This is the Farrion Dozier Show on KCA Radio, 106.5 FM, 1050 AM, and the Military Broadcast Radio Network. Let's come back with some sports highlights with my guy, Sports Log.
Do you remember studying sickle cell in biology class? What's the Count on Sickle Cell Trait Prevention is here to bring you awareness, education, and prevention conversations around the risk factors of this inherited gene. Visit wdconsct.org.
Muchos de nosotros nos vemos afectados por la enfermedad de células falciformes a diario y un número creciente simplemente no nos damos cuenta. Los impactos de esta enfermedad afectan a todas las personas y en especialmente a las personas de color y con antecedentes diversos. Estar en servicio conmigo y con los demás a medida que creamos una mayor conciencia sobre cómo identificar y dirigir el tratamiento de los rasgos de células falciformes y ayudar a las familias a saber cómo superar el trastorno de células falciformes. WDCONS.
This is Farrion from the Farrion Dozier Show, 8 p.m. Pacific Time on KCAA Radio, 106.5 FM, 1050 AM. Also streaming from the KCAA Radio.com website, the station that leaves no listener behind, and MBR Radio. That's right, MBR Radio on all their streaming platforms, including MBR Radio on Roku TV, Sunday nights live, 8 p.m. Pacific Time on KCAA Radio and MBRradio.us. The Farrion Dozier Show. For more information, search farriond.com.
Oh, I gotta say this before we get into the sports. Also, you can catch me on the Revolution Radio Show on GH3, God's House of Hip Hop, powered by Lit Live. I'm going to share my screen so you can take a look at that show. This week's episode, off the charts. We've had a lot of great episodes. Shouts out to my new co-host, One Way TK. He was a guest on our show last year, and as my co-host took a break, we asked One Way if he wanted to hang out with us, and he did. And so he has been bringing us some great guests. This is the last guest so it aired Saturday and Sunday. This is just a clip of what goes down on the Revolution Radio Show on GH3.
It's crazy because I'm basically saying, like the people that really just don't talk about their testimony and stuff. And I remember I was saying, I was feeling hopeless, smoking blunts on the freeway. I was feeling this. I was feeling anxiety. I was doing life the me way. I was just doing my thing. And I remember just feeling hopeless. And then, just God really did save me. So I would say, when I made them days, I was really just by myself in my studio, in the studio alone, and just fully just submerged in the fact that, that God really just wanted to speak on this song, really talking about a little bit of my testimony, but in a nutshell of like a minute and 49 seconds, you know what I mean?
That was our guest there. And if you go to my website at Farrion D, or Farrion Dozier, you will see that we have had some. Let me play another one. On that willingness.
That willingness it's surrender, really. It's surrender. It's letting go of everything it's almost letting go of everything that you thought you knew. But as you let go of everything, God is going to have his keeping power over the things that he wants to stay. And then at the same time, he's going to be able to remove everything that needs to be removed. But you have to be pliable. So pliable is that word that I always look at. It's where the like a potter uses when he's making pottery, being able to mold and shape and take out the things that need to be taken out and put in the things that need to be put in and leave what's there so that he can make the beautiful masterpiece that he's trying to make out of someone's life.
Elaborate on that. Was just one guess. That was a week before. Where I got one more. We got one more. Check this. Their attitude is stemming from something.
Yeah.
Right? It's stemming from something. So you want to say some more about that real quick before we get started?
Yeah, I mean it's you know how like nowadays the older generations, and I'm starting to consider myself that. I'm only 31, but like the older the generations go on in America, the more and more we talk about how kids had less and less of an identity when they were kids, right? Mm-hmm. And so I think like, there's nothing really like to say about it anymore. It's just more so in a sense of like, it's not too late to like identify your identity and what's really going on. And like, even as adults, we have to go back and deal with that child within us. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And so it's like, that's something that, I mean, I just encourage everyone to sort of like take that journey for themselves. And it's a lifelong journey,
Another great artist. So these are Christian hip hop artists on the show weekly, sharing their story, their testimony, what led them to Christ, all that. All right, church man.
Woo! Crazy.
Yes, sir.
We got to get into that. We got to get into that walk, man, because you like all of us, you've been through a lot, man, and I love to hear how you apply that word to your life, man, to deal with those situations. If people knew that, if people really understood how that works, if they apply that word, man, there's so much peace in that.
Yeah.
So much peace.
It's, man, oh my goodness. I just preached Saturday, and I was telling people like the bearing of the cross. Do you fully understand it? He said, my sermon was called the cross is not beautiful. And so when people live their life, they don't really understand that picking up the cross is heavy.
Mm-hmm. I'm telling you. So if you want to check us out, it's Lit Live, Revolution Radio Show on GH3, God's House of Hip Hop. We got episodes every week, pretty much a new episode coming up for you. So again, thanks for listening to that. That's some of the things I'm up to here in the community, in my life, the life that I live. Definitely important conversation. So Sports Log, man, let me know when you're ready. You can turn your camera on so I know you're there. And let me play the commercial for the Lit Live talk show. This is the Farrion Dozier Show on KCA Radio, 106.5 FM, 1050 AM, and MBR platform. That's right, MBR.
Tune in to the Farrion Dozier Show on KCA Radio 106.5 FM, 1050 AM. Also streaming from the KCARadio.com website on Sunday nights at 8 p.m. Pacific Time. Brought to you by Sports Collective TV, Sports Collective Radio, and Sports Collective Media. We got the Heme Factor, we got In the Zone, and we got Fourth Down in the 20-second timeout sports segment. All for you right here on the Farrion Dozier Show on KCA Radio 106.5 FM, 1050 AM. Also streaming from the KCARadio.com website with my guest hosts Robert Lamar and Coach Will. Catch us on Sports Collective Media on Instagram and Facebook. And make sure you watch us Sunday nights at 8 p.m. on KCA Radio 106.5 FM, 1050 AM. Also streaming from the KCARadio.com website. Music, talk, sports, and so much more on the Farrion Dozier Show.
I just wanna breathe this name, my God. Lift this name up high, dedicate this life, give them all we got. Testify with our hands out.
they mother tried to make it easy. But we was some knuckles though. We used to let them knuckles throw. We used to let them chuckles go when we thought about the places we would go. Yeah, lights off. Yeah, no, really. Lights off. Yeah, no money. Lights off.
All right, welcome back to the Farrion Dozier Show on KC Radio 16.5 and 1050 AM. Streaming from the KCRadio.com website and military broadcast radio platforms, Roku TV. Let me bring up Sports Log, man. All I know is my Steelers won. We don't have to talk about nothing else. All I know is that my Steelers won, and we can end the show on that note. We can end the note on that one. How you doing, man?
What's the count? How you doing?
I'm down by 1, man, with 3 seconds on the clock.
You better make it count, right?
You gotta make it count, man. What's up?
Oh man, hey, I gotta tell you, I love salmon. It's one of my favorite fish. And I sent you that link on that dolphin I saw some weeks ago. That poor thing was just all by itself, but I guess they got it to San Antonio or something to mix with some other male white-sided dolphins. It was just so sad seeing it by itself, but because no animal should be like that. But I guess they got it to a nice place in Texas. So. But yeah, you hate to see something like that, you know. Yeah, any animal, but yeah.
Yeah, we don't want that.
What a busy weekend we got. We have a new WNBA champion, the New York Liberty, the first time winners. They beat out the Minnesota Lynx, who had all the veterans. They had all the talent there, the championships. They've won it 4 times, but it was a battle. They're coming back, a lot of missed shots, but overtime winner. This is the first time we've had a multiple overtime in the finals, I guess. Yeah, it was just really exciting. The women really showed some high class and just great competition, and it was a real treat to watch. I mean, it was great competition. 4 and 5. I guess it's going to go to 7 next year. They said hey, they want just as much competition. So
yeah.
Yeah, we get Dodgers just won their 22nd National League championship pennant. Yep, they did. They did. Game 6, the Mets tried to do what they could, but they really took care of them tonight. It was a lot like last night when the Yankees took their 41st American League. Boo! But no, it's going to be a true championship that Major League Baseball has been wanting for a long time. 2 giant markets. 2 just traditional teams with all the history and heritage. But yeah, it'll be a good series. But anytime the Yankees are in it, man. But the Yankees and Dodgers, it's gonna be history right there. So that's a good one.
I'm an Angels fan, so
you're an
and for anybody playing the Dodgers.
Who had a bigger year than Shohei? And he comes over from and goes from one LA team to the other. And you're going to see Aaron Judge, Soto last night. What a bomb! And that's what they brought him in for. So you got a lot of money invested in one team, and a lot of just histrionics on both sides. Yeah. Just going to be a good series. Going to be a good World Series. We waited long enough for this, so it'll turn out right. But what else? Yeah, it's just some crazy stuff going on in college football. I was a big fan of that Georgia-Texas game last night. But a tale of 2 halves. Every Georgia did to Texas what Alabama tried to come back and do. It's how you win the game, and you can't win it unless you do well in the fourth quarter, really. And that's how some of these teams with the 12-team championship, 12-team playoffs coming up. It's going to be anybody's game. So, it's going to be a real herald chance for the any outlier. It's just anything could happen.
Yeah, anything can happen.
Yeah, it'll be good. I'm waiting for that. Hey, yeah, and basketball kicks off Tuesday. We got the Celtics trying to defend their world championship. So that was some really short preseasons. The hockey kicked off, and we're already ready for basketball. I'm not sure if they've ever gone. They get off slower nowadays. So, but October, that's a pretty early start for the NBA, and it's pretty wide open too. We got a lot of different faces and new places. It's gonna be a big watch.
So it says on NBC Sports, it says that of course, October 22nd at 4:30. New York and Boston. Boston's at home.
Yep. Yeah, New York. Yeah, it's going to be a big challenge because New York. I mean, they've got a couple of they had some free agency movement. Celtics haven't done really much in the offseason. They didn't really need to. We'll see if they can stand true, and they got a pretty good team. They got the solid foundation. Porzingis has got those question marks. He's a year later. He had some injuries last year. They really only need him down the end of the stretch, but we'll see if they can face the Phillies, New York. We'll see who comes up out of the East. But, yeah, it's going to be a big challenge.
The Lakers play Minnesota.
Lakers play Minnesota. That's later that night, later Tuesday. Yeah.
7, yeah.
Double. Yeah. So that it's a jump start. We'll see the big teams come out. We'll see how they handle it. The off season it wasn't big. It wasn't a big off season, but a little bit of dynamics here. A switch. We'll have it going quick. They'll get up and at it.
How did your team do?
Hey, you remember at the beginning you asked me how
you just danced all around that one, huh?
Somebody called me a fair weather team. I'm like, well, no, I knew they were going to be bad this year. I didn't know they weren't going to get many wins in the start of the season. I looked at their schedule. I don't see many wins coming. No. But they're already fast with a loss today. Jacksonville, that was their second game in a week in London, and I think they were ready to get. They're no longer the Monarchs, but they were ready to get rid of them if they didn't come up with a win. But Jacksonville looked pretty good. Drake May looked better. He's making progress. He didn't have a turnover today, but you know what I mean. There's so many more problems with that team that hey, an early draft pick's not going to hurt. But they just
so that you're gonna play for a draft pick now?
I gave them 5 or 6 wins in the beginning of the season. I just don't know where they're gonna find them in the second half.
Man,
they got a pretty tough schedule. The division. Rogers just lost to your Steelers tonight, so really it's about Buffalo. See if Tua can come back. I'm not really. That's a tough card right there. That kid's got a lot to play for and play against. So, well, the East doesn't look as strong as it used to, but the Patriots just steeped. Yeah.
Oh my God, danger.
But the AFC has some bad teams in it. Cleveland. Oh, Deshaun Watson. He may have called it a career today. I don't know. That looked like a bad hit, bad injury. They're going to assess him. Brandon Ayuk took it down earlier today. He looks like he could be out for the season. It's just any given day, any team, any league, you could lose your best player. Aiden Hutchinson last week for the Lions. It's just how you recover and how you make do. But who's going to beat the Chiefs? Until you beat that team, they look pretty good tonight.
My sports crew's not here tonight, but Robert's team took that L.
I don't know. It's good night.
That L.
You gotta roll with the punches every week. It's different, like I said, any given day, and for every season, every week, every team. It's just something, you gotta get past. You gotta pass the injuries. You gotta find something new to work with, but it's adjustment. Every team's gonna adjust. Every team's kind of dealing with the same thing. But honestly, you get plagued with injuries, or you're just trying to roll with the punches. You just got to make better with every week. But honestly, I haven't seen anything better than the Chiefs, what they've been doing.
I did catch a little bit of the Rams toward the end of the Rams game with the Raiders, but
yeah, the Raiders, they started off well. The Saints started off well. They haven't been the same. Raiders, but the Rams, Sean McVay's not going to let that team suffer. Legit. They're going to come back at some point, whether it's up and down, hot and cold. Detroit looked real good today against Minnesota. Green Bay against Houston. That was a nice battle. Some of the better competitions of the earlier games. But it's week to week. How you live, how you living now. It's gonna make or break. Yeah. It's kind of cliche, but this isn't your granddaddy's NFL anymore.
No,
you know what I mean?
That's the old days.
Yeah. Saquon Barkley got to beat up his old team today. Cincinnati just said, "Hey, we're tired of losing, and we're playing Cleveland." But yeah, that was a tough loss for Deshaun. He took a bad hit. That's what's in the game. The hits and injuries are going to make and break every week. To decide who's playing next week.
I just
Momentum is the next guy.
I just hate the fact that, in my transition out of the service, man, I lost interest. I mean, we've been together for 14 years almost, the last few years
Absolutely,
on and off.
yeah.
But you
That's
helped me start that sports show back in 2010, and I losing interest in sports is just so hard for me to watch. So I'm not up to speed on all of the conversations that you're having. I'm just like, if I don't see it that day or watch a little bit of it, then I'm lost, man. And it just feels so weird to be lost in the world of sports that I used to be so engaged in. So
it's really my biggest escape, or my only. I mean, I was told tonight, is like, not many people watch and adhere to the sports realm and world. I'm like, I get that, but I was at a party the other night. I'm like, I couldn't find anybody to talk to me about one particular game on. I'm like, it was a Halloween costume. I dressed as a sports fan so I could carry my little TV and watch the games. But it's part of my costume. But yeah, no, I guess, nobody's invested like that. But I can't, like, oh, I'm at a party and can I have this little, I got to know what's going on. Maybe it's just a little earpiece like they used to have in the old days of the Wild. Secret Service? No, I'm just listening to a game now.
Now,
but it's tough.
Before you converted to sports log, before you converted to sports log and sports post, your prior sports page was when I met you.
Right. That was a friend page on sports on Facebook. It was a friend page, and you weren't supposed to exceed like 5,000. And I had almost 6,000 friends. And then they're like, "Hey, you're an entity. You have to be a real person." So I had to make a like page.
Yeah.
That's where it went from there. But I mean, it started all way back when Reggie Bush and the Saints won the Super Bowl. Is that 90? No, 2006, something like that. So I just started going along from there, and changed it up all around. But I've done other things, and I have a degree from Connecticut School of Broadcasting. But that's only kind of furthered along things. I've done camera work and on intern and on air stuff. So it's further on, but just keep plugging on. It's really what you can make of something, and just enjoy what you're doing. But every day it's like it's a perpetual motion.
Yeah.
Just every day I'm like, well, what's going to happen today? And what are we going to do next? And,
do you still track? You still tracking the hockey? I mean, you still tracking all sports, right?
Obviously, yeah. I watch all the four major sports and the college sports, and then I was real big in golf at the start of this year because it was big majors. Scotty Scheffler having a great season, and then NASCAR was coming on late at the end, and you have your Wimbledons. You try to keep up, but I mean, mainly it's a way for myself to stay in tune and stay on top, but also to know the scores that are going on, and not just locally. I like my local teams, but I've been invested. I mean, I wear the shield or whatever for the NFL because there are that many teams. And that league was there before the teams that I follow. Not so much as the Red Sox; they were one of the first teams, and the Celtics. They go back; they're steeped, and now they're one of the most herald teams. They have the most championships. Sorry, LA, but they'll come back. They'll come back again. Maybe we'll see another, Larry Bird, Magic Johnson-esque, the Jason Tatum and LeBron this year. That could be pretty cool.
What's your views on the Clippers, man?
I stay the course, keep the mainsail up. I mean, they're in a tough town. They're fighting LA, but I think they've done some good moves. They've had their shares of success, and a little bit they fall back every now and then. But this year's pretty vacant for a true champion, and you've got a lot of a lot of movement that happened, a lot of new faces, a lot of injuries. I mean, I just did a draft the other day. Everybody is GTD. So,
No way.
yeah, but I mean, it's a long season. I mean, you see what the Dodgers did. They held some guys back. Mookie didn't play for a long time. The Yankees had some guys coming back off rotation. They know it's a long season. You gotta kind of hold them in, you know. I mean, the Patriots they weren't ready to start Drake May, and then they finally started Drake May. But I mean, did you see the hits Jacoby Brissett took? You kind of want somebody to absorb all the early season stuff and then get into your mid-season, late season, find out where you are. But, I mean, if your team's not good, then you really can't be doing much else to regulate. You can trade, you can do whatever, but or you can play for next season.
Well, like you said, it's any
Which-
given Sunday at the end of the day anyway, so you just never
every
know.
day, but yeah, absolutely. The Sunday's the big day, but every day is something else. And NFL has gone to a 365-day league, and something that goes on every day, even though they're once a week teams. Yeah, you just got to keep up with the football. Make sure you're in tune with the pulse.
Let's see. We talked about the WMA. You talked about college. Oh, I did try and watch some of the Colorado. They did pretty good this weekend.
Dion's got himself a jet. I know he's been talking with some of the big guys. He's a big. I mean, him and Nick Saban. They got commercials. They're tight. I think Dion's pulling it together right, and he's already matched over. He's over. They've won more than last year. I think they can make a progression. It's a tough schedule going ahead, but I mean, if they can get into a nice bowl game, I don't know if they'll be playing New Year's Day, but you know what I mean. It's forward moving from last year, and he did a lot in Jackson State in a short time there. He's got Shador. They're talking Shador, Heisman. So he's making all the right moves in the right directions.
Yeah, definitely should be pretty interesting.
Yeah, no, I do like what he's doing with that organization. Plus, it's up in the Pacific Northwest there. Anything can happen.
Yeah.
Oregon. The Oregon just moved into number 1. Georgia's number 2, but Oregon moved up. Texas falling out. Alabama. Alabama, Tennessee. That was a battle last night. But I mean, you're just seeing who can run the ball better and how many better players you got on your college program. Alabama's kind of in a rebuilding year. They'd never admit to it, but it's pretty close.
Yeah. Well, man, thank you. We got a few more minutes. I want to cover one more topic, man, before I get out of here. I was doing my best to get Caldwell Williams on here. I'm going to share this page.
Nice.
This is for my veterans. Caldwell is 90 years old, and he was doing mindfulness stuff before. Like, this is like 1950. He graduated UCLA in 1957 and was doing mental health and mindfulness conversations way back then. And my conversation for that is because as veterans in our transition out of the service, there's a 22 a day that take their life, about one every 65 minutes. And so I'm a part of this conversation from my own personal experience, because we're doing our best to help veterans, right? And so I've been with Caldwell for the last almost 6 years. I've learned his curriculum. I've applied his curriculum to my life. He has granted me and trusted me with his program. And like I said, he's 90. So when he passes away, he's going to leave that education to me to continue on. And so I just wanted to let our veterans know that we are working diligently to interrupt this veteran suicide conversation with the curriculum around the identity crisis that we deal with. That's me speaking. Our objectification. That's one thing. As we objectify human beings, I was trained to objectify another human being into a terrorist, and then you kill terrorists. But just imagine one day that brain remembers that wasn't just a terrorist, that was a human being, and you have to live with that. But just like in life, we all deal with some type of label that we deal with people. We objectify, you're black, you're white, you're Hispanic. And those conversations can get in the way of the connectedness and the relatedness as it is as human beings, right? So those are one of the things that we take care of. We help veterans transition, from out of the service back into life and society. And you got to figure out what's next, right? This radio, Sports Law can tell you, this radio program started for me 14 years ago in the midst of my depression and anxiety, because I made that my career coming to an end, that life was over. And so to be able to make it through that conversation, make it through life, to be here in front of you, all because of a talk show, all because of a radio show, a sports show, that kept me alive. And so we want to help veterans discover what's next. My sickle cell trait advocacy was my what's next. It was something that was a gene that I was born with. I had no idea. And then, God showed me that, hey, that sickle cell trait gene has a purpose in life for you. And so I went from defending this country to now defending this community around this inherited gene. So I was able to discover my what's next in life. Some people are not. Sometimes our identity is so tied up into that camouflage and that uniform that it is hard for us to figure out who we are and what we want to take on, right? And so Caldwell, again, he's 90 years old. He's a Korean era veteran. I have been blessed to be able to be a part of this conversation. Matter of fact, I'm going to play these clips that we have for our veterans right here.
One of the toughest points of my life was I had a really bad mental breakdown. It was between what happened overseas to losing a friend who committed suicide when we came back to decisions I've made during my lifetime and not being able to be athletic anymore, not be able to run anymore. Just a lot of things with the anxiety and everything else that happened, to a point where when they pulled me over, I couldn't hang myself because my rope was in my trunk, and I couldn't cut myself as hard as it was. I tried, couldn't do it. So I had about 200 pills I brought from a CVS store. It was, so I ended up taking all the pills, and I woke up in a hospital bed, handcuffed with a tube down my throat, hearing all these pills come out.
I've done 2 combat deployment rotations to Afghanistan, and I suffered major fatigueness while I was over there with my mental and my physical health. I was afraid to sleep with my daughter because I aggressively move around in my sleep, and sometimes I could be very violent. With all the things that occurred with me and all of those situations, it lead me up to this point, checking into a shelter. I lost my wife, my daughter.
So dealing with PTSD is something that requires a sophisticated sort of method of self-discovery to be able to. I wound up in Caldwell Williams program, and everything that they talked about was put to words the things I felt that I couldn't say. The information I had gleaned, the personal insights I had, it was as if someone had already gone through it and had pieced it all together and understood how a person goes through the self-transformation discovery, this transition from having wounds into using them to become whole and complete. And that's what Caldwell Williams program does.
That experience of being whole and complete that he mentioned there is so important. I'm going to play, my clip is just a little bit of mine, and then I'm going to get out of here. This is the Farrion Dozier Show on KCA Radio 106.5 FM, 1050 AM. Also streaming on the KCARadio.com website and military broadcast radio platforms. Again, this is something for my veteran community. I was doing my best to get Caldwell on tonight at the first part of the show. He's 90 years old, ladies and gentlemen, and he could not figure out the StreamYard on his computer, man. So I couldn't bring him live, but we're going to work on it and have him for an episode of this show, for the Trench Talk episode. But I just want to play a little bit of my conversation so you can see how important this is.
But more importantly, in my transition out of the service, yes, I became an advocate, but I also had to end up dealing with my mental health, right? And that part, I got some personal development courses, and I was able to start to unravel what was going on with my mental health and why did I feel like my life was over when I got out of the military. Part of that was my identity was trapped into my camouflage, into my rank. So if you understand identity crisis, outside of that uniform, I didn't know who Farrion was. I was lost. So that had my mind say life is over. So now you talk about living to the future of uncertainty and anxiety, or you talking about living in the past in depression. I was dealing with depression in the past because I was mad at myself. I had to forgive myself because I was mad that I sprinted that day. If I didn't sprint that day, I could have stayed in the military longer. I could have got my next rank. I could have had all this stuff accomplished. The future of uncertainty was so far in the future that I know what my life was going to turn out. Was I going to lose my house, lose my family? Was I going to take my life? But my point is, when I was able to do this personal development courses and understand how my brain was functioning, right? And I had made up some decisions about my parents at a very young age, that my dad didn't love me and my mom abandoned me because I was a latchkey kid, what they call 1978. You had to walk home by yourself and have this key to get in the apartment. What we don't understand is we lose our children in that middle school to junior high school because sometimes there's a low smooth stress that happens because the child is now transitioning from a smaller class to a bigger class, and now the identity is, who am I, right? And so now we have to figure out, how do we help children? Because you can put them in front of any kind of career, but if they're going home saying to themselves, well, that sounds good for him, but I'm not good enough, like, where does that come from? And so there are conversations we can have to help, I say, alter the mindset of our children, to empower them to find that self-reliance, because life is not over. But there are things that happen to us that we make up these stories that are not true. And those first core ones for me was my parents. I had that my dad didn't love me and my mom abandoned me. And then when I went to my peers, you know how that goes when you go to your peers. That's all trial and error, right? But what happens is sometimes we make up decisions about ourselves, right? That out of that conversation of my dad doesn't love me, you either try to prove yourself or try to prove your love or whatever happens. But I tell you, at 40 years old, I realized my mom didn't abandon me. I was an 8-year-old kid. I had no idea about time. And I had to walk home from school with this key. So I had to become responsible. I even picked a job in the military as a supply sergeant to prove that I was responsible. But that was going on in the background. I didn't know that at the time. So what I'm saying is there's a conversation we can have with our youth, with our parents, so that our children can start to deal with some of those internal dialogues, right? There's 3 things I want to say. Sometimes from myself, I'll put myself in this. I discovered that at a very young age, there was something wrong. There was something wrong here, right? As a very young age, and that created a little burden on me. And then I discovered that I don't belong. For whatever reason, I don't belong. And then I'm on my own. So the abandonment part came from my mom with the latchkey kid about I'm on my own and I had to become responsible. But it's not a bad thing. She trusted me with the key to the apartment at 8 years old, right? But in my mind as a child, it was 90 minutes. It felt like 20 hours, but it was 90 minutes. But when I figured it was 90 minutes, I was 50 years old. At 50 years old, I realized that my mom never abandoned me, that she actually trusted me. And that when I looked and see what was going on in 1978, what was on TV, man, Good Times, All in the Family, Sanford and Son, that stuff came on at 4 or 5 o'clock. I was in the house by 3. But the story that I was living in from all those many years was not true. But in my mind, it was true. So can you imagine growing up in an environment where you criticize your parents and not really connected to them because you think that they didn't have the life for me that I thought I should have, but they really did the best that they could? When you transform that view of your parents, I became free at 50 years old. And then I became responsible for my own life. But then I saw the damages that I had done to relationships, right? Because of trying to survive and trying to keep myself safe. So my point is, there are conversations that we want to have with our youth so that they can become free and self-reliant from their environment. There's a level of exclusion and inclusion that's an emotional. It's not just the things that we do about exclusion, but there's also an emotional piece that comes with that. And if we don't deal with that emotional, silent emotional, I don't like to call it trauma, but like a low mood stress, we can actually have a conversation and deal with that so that child becomes free from that. And now they feel empowered to take on life. And if you don't want to go to college, if you want to get a degree or a certificate, you have that choice. And a lot of times children feel like they're forced to, because as parents, we have our concerns for our children. We want them to turn out. My parents just wanted me to turn out as a child, but they didn't really know because they had me as a child. They were 19 and 20 years old. So what? I'm 51 now and still trying to figure out what life is. So I can imagine, my parents having a child in such a young age. And then I looked at how they grew up and what was going on when they were born and what was going on when my grandparents were born post-slavery. So you could see how that generation had passed on ways to survive life. And then you have a child and you want that child to develop and grow. But we have concerns for our children. But we forget as parents is that our children grow up with concerns on their own life. And now how do we put our concerns aside and worry about what that child is worrying about, not what we're worried about? Because that's that child's life. It's not our life. So I had to then go back and heal my relationship with my 3 daughters because I had treated them how my parents treated me. And you see how the cycle kept going on. But now I have a grandson, and now that I'm educated and I'm aware of that, we get to break that cycle, and he will have the skills and the knowledge to listen and then make his own choices. And I believe that if we have this part of us as a core conversation with our youth, then the jobs that we introduce them to, they will look at an opportunity for them to be included by either dialogue skills or by their merit, not because of a race or a color that society has built up what inclusion looks like. And the military does inclusion by objectification so well because it teaches us to transform that person into a terrorist, right? So when we objectify one another, now I'm no longer connected to you as a person. You're a other. And then that allows me to talk to you or treat you in the other. And the military does it where we can transform that person into a terrorist, and then you kill that terrorist. So I'm not killing a person, I'm killing a terrorist. But then one day that brain's gonna remember, that was a human being. I didn't kill a terrorist. So these are the things that if we start to develop and teach this at our younger ages, at our 5, 6, 7, 8-year-old ages, and we listen to them, we can teach them how to be included, not just by what you do, but with your language, with your conversation, and then with your merit, right? And the objectification, it hurts us. Even as we talk about race and black and white, again, I'm objectifying you. If you look at sports, you put a Clipper jersey on and a Laker jersey on, they will talk to each other and they will talk down to each other and sometimes kill one another because of a team jersey. That's the power of objectification. We need it because it teaches our children how to survive. But when that conversation gets corrupted or out of context, it also can hurt us as a society of people. So I just want to say thank you, Bill, for the opportunity to share, my awareness, but how I want to contribute to the Hidden Pioneers to help our next generation. I don't want to say change their future, but at least alter their future so they have an opportunity to be included in society, because we already are. We're already born with access to everything that we have. It's just how do we figure out what we want, and having the parents understand that, yes, you're concerned for your child and you want your child to turn out, and we're going to help them discover themselves so that they can take that education and utilize it for something. It could be their purpose, their passion, their gift. My sickle cell trait became my purpose. I was born with that inherited gene, and that same gene that I thought was going to kill me, it allows me to find my voice. And imagine a child develops that they find something that they care about in society, and they use that education to and find their voice and empower them in that, not to get a job, to survive life, right? And so I'm very grateful to be a part of this and to share, and we're here to do the work. And more importantly, we're here to be the work, to share our examples, to share our testimonies so that the children can learn from us and who they get to be. It's not just what you do in life, it's also who you get to be. It takes confidence, it takes courage, it takes a boldness, it takes a way of being to be able to take on a job. You have to be able to take a risk. You can't take a risk if you don't feel you're good enough. Then you have that battle in your mind. But imagine if you be the confidence, you be courageous, you be whatever that is that empowers you first, then your activities will go in alignment with who you're being, and then you can be honest with the results that you want to produce. Not everybody wants to have a lot of money. Some people just want to have fame. Some people just want cars. They want a house for their family. And being able to have the children understand that, what are the results you want to produce in life? It's not always about fame and fortune. Sometimes it's about self-service and community. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? There are jobs, as we were talking about earlier, you can get a trade job that pays more than a doctor. But if you're only given that sports and military is your only options, no way. You don't have to be the athlete catching the pass on the courts. There are so many jobs connected to football, to racing, to baseball. But we have to help the students discover that for themselves, not tell them. And this last piece of it is, for me, there are some things I discovered about myself and for people. One of the main things that is hard for people is that to honor our word. To honor our word to ourselves and to other people. It's challenging. They call it integrity. But it's challenging to honor your word to yourself and to other people. The second one is keeping an empowering context. And that's what we're trying to, not what we're trying to, what we're being here is how do we keep that person to have an empowering context through their circumstances, through their struggles in life, through incidences. How do we keep that person to be empowered in that context? We can. But it takes away of who you get to be, not just what you do in life. So again, Bill, thank you for your time, man. If you want information about me, my organization is WDConsct.org. That's WDConsct.org. I'm also a broadcaster and a filmmaker, things like that. So I have a lot of community outreach stuff I do connected to that. And that's at farriond.com. And that's farriond.com.
Some of us still carry the burden of battle. It threatens to drown us in our everyday lives. In battle, we had our weapons and combat gear to keep us safe, to keep us confident. But when we returned home, we were not armed with weapons and gear to cope with our own minds. I was lucky to find my combat gear, my mental weapon, and it's called Calmago. Calmago is a drug-free device that allows you to achieve calm in less than 3 minutes in moments of anxiety, stress, anger, panic, or insomnia, not with medication, but rather by activating the parasympathetic nervous system through breathing regulation and multisensory stimulation. A recent study has shown that Calmago decreases PTSD and anxiety levels in veterans, helping those who are suffering and having a long-lasting effect. Visit Calmago.com to learn how you can get Calmago through the VA or with a special veterans discount code.
All right, welcome back to the Dozier Show on KCA Radio 106.5 FM and 1050 AM and the Military Broadcast Radio Network. Sports Talk, man, thanks for hanging out tonight, man. I really appreciate you for putting together that sports talk with me, man.
You got it. That was good stuff. Glad to be a part of it.
Thank you.
Good show.
Thanks for I know it's late over there too, huh?
yeah, I'm getting ready. I watched a couple episodes of some show or some, call it a night.
Cool, man. Good seeing you, man. Always. Thank you.
Hey, you too. All right.
Take care. All right. This is the Dozier Show on KC Radio 106.5 FM, 250 AM. Thanks for listening in. Shouts out to the Sports Collective TV, media, and radio segment. The station is moving. KCA is moving, and so we couldn't get into the station tonight. So hopefully by next weekend or the future Sundays, we'll be able to be back in studio live in the station. So they are moving to a nicer place than where they were. So that's a good thing. Shouts out to KCA Radio and NBR for the platforms. That's it. I think I've said enough. I just really hope for those veterans who watched that last piece, make sure you reach out to us. We are ready to be about that work. And that website is LBI Solutions. You can definitely go there and just kind of look around if you are an organization or you have a nonprofit and you take care of veterans and you want to support that conversation, yes, you can thank us for our service, but there's some real work that needs to be done for our brothers and sisters. And we're willing to take that on. So I really appreciate y'all. And, there's more to come. Shouts out to Tracy Rounds. Thank you for that. Appreciate that. Our guy Joel Hunt there. Thank you. Tracy Rounds got some fires and some flags out there too. I appreciate those who are watching and those who will watch later. Make sure you just, again, if you're interested in anything about that veteran piece, you can support us there as well. And you can find me again at wdconsct.org or at farrion.com. All right. I got another message. It says, it's such a blessing. Yes, that's why, like I said, that Trench Talk show was in my heart for most of my career, and I was able to use that show, that conversation, to stay connected. This is my personal therapy. This is my therapy, and if I can make it through what I went through, why not be that example and help other veterans? But we can't forget the family members too, right? The family members are just as important and connected to that veteran. So we got to make sure that we take care of our veterans. When I say veterans, that's the family, it's the children, the parents, things like that. So I'm just blessed that God has blessed me to survive all of my injuries and to be here in front of you to have an authentic type of show, so that we can help move this conversation forward. So thank you for that. All right, I think I've said enough, and let's go. Check us out next week, of course. I'm trying to take this banner thing down right there. All right, let's get out of here. The Farrion Dozier Show on KC Radio 106.5 FM, 1050 AM, and the Military Broadcast Radio Network. I'm very grateful to be a part of this. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to Military Broadcast Radio. As we wrap up today's show, we want to remind you that the podcast of today's episode will be available right after we go off the air. So if you missed any part of the show or want to listen again, be sure to check it out. And remember, we're here to support and honor our veterans. Your stories and experiences matter, and we are committed to giving you a platform to share them. That's right. We're here to give our veterans a voice. So don't forget to catch the podcast and stay connected with us. Giving our veterans a voice.